Part 191. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1901. Zhao Mian lowered his voice and said to me, "There is only one way now." "Any solution?" I asked. Zhao Mian's voice became lower and lower. "The method is very simple. You and I will work together to deal with these 5 saints first, and then you will seize the opportunity to collect the souls of the 365 righteous gods into the list of gods. After completing this matter, you will go to the heavenly coffin alone. 9th floor. I frowned and asked, "What about you?" Zhao Mian replied calmly, "Of course I will stay here to stop them." "Can you?" I asked worriedly. Zhao Mian rolled his eyes and said, "A man cannot say no and rush forward like a wolf or a tiger. Leave things here to me, you don't have to worry. Also, the last layer of the sky coffin is sealed by you. You have a way to enter the sky coffin." I nodded. I did have a way to enter the 9th level of the sky coffin. Zhao Mian's method is indeed the best method at present. Zhao Mian and I discussed in a very low voice. The discussion didn't take long, just a few words. God Haoshan, Queen Mother of the West, Sanking, their eyes were full of solemnity because Zhao Mian and I were standing together. I stopped talking nonsense and said to Zhao Mian, "Let's do it." Zhao Mian agreed and rushed towards Sanking. And my opponents are God Haoshan and Queen Mother of the West. Obviously, this move of Zhao Mian and I made God Haoshan and Queen Mother of the West a little confused. God Haoshan said to me, "Lu Su, I don't know what you are paying attention to. What I didn't expect is that you don't want Zhao Mian to return to his body. If Zhao Mian returns to your body, we are no match." I pointed my sword at God Haoshan and said, "Okay, stop talking nonsense. Without his power, I can still annihilate you." As soon as I finished speaking, I used the power of the 9 Eyes heavenly realm to disappear instantly. When he appeared again, he was already beside God Haoshan. I can teleport in the 9 Eyes heaven realm. As long as I teleport fast enough, I won't fall. I held the Zuxian sword in my hand and swung the sword towards God Haoshan. In the previous battle, God Haoshan was injured by me. He is no match for me now. Then I waved the Zuxian sword. God Haoshan can only use all his strength to deal with it. Just when the sword energy was about to touch God Haoshan, the Queen Mother of the West suddenly came to God Haoshan. Queen Mother 11 suddenly exploded with aura, shattering the sword energy into pieces. The Queen Mother of the West is considered to be the supreme being in the divine world, equivalent to the Sanking Tianzun, representing extremely high status and power. She is also the Golden Mother of Yaokai and one of the saints. What I faced before was just the soul of the Queen Mother of the West. The Queen Mother of the West is indeed in her prime now. Queen Mother 11 waved her hand, and a mirror appeared in front of her out of thin air. The next second, the mirror emitted a dazzling white light. I originally wanted to hide, but Bai's speed was extremely fast and he caught me impartially. When the white light hit me, I immediately felt numb in my limbs and lost my intuition. As I lost consciousness, the bone-shattering pain swallowed me up like a tide. At this moment, I feel like every inch of my skin is breathing in pain. This pain is no less than cramping during skin peeling. This object is Kunlun Mirror. The Kunlun Mirror is owned by the Queen Mother of the West. It carries the Tai Xian pattern engraved on it and has the power to connect heaven and earth, illuminate all things, and break the gaps in time and space. Of course, the light it emits can easily obliterate gods. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1902. I used all the dragon energy in my body to deal with the body emanating from the Kunlun Mirror. Just as I was tethered to the spot, God Haoshan suddenly attacked. His soul thrust out a palm. Immediately afterwards, a huge golden slap appeared in the sky. The golden palm fell from the sky like the palm of the legendary Tathagata. I wanted to hide, but my body was illuminated by the Kunlun mirror god's light and I couldn't move. Therefore, I could only watch helplessly as the palm of God Haoshan struck directly at me. Just hear a loud bang. I was directly beaten by God Haoshan. Queen Mother of the West and God Haoshan stared at me. When the light dissipated, I stood there intact. Jinglian. Queen Mother 11 exclaimed. That's right, I used Jinglian in time, otherwise I would definitely be seriously injured at this moment. My face hardened, and I used the dragon energy in my body to break free from the Kunlun mirror. I quickly kneaded the formula with both hands, and a magic circle emitting white light spread out in front of me. The magic circle took shape, I waved my hand, and the magic circle changed and spread around. Fighting the gods for so long has not taken too much of a toll on me. After all, I have the dragon energy of the entire Chinese dragon vein in my body. What supports human activities is qi. As long as there is breath, people will not die. The Chinese dragon qi in my body is equivalent to a large power bank that continuously provides me with power. I slowly raised the Zuxian sword in my hand. The magic circle started to move as I raised the immortal killing sword in my hand. All of a sudden, the magic circle emitting white light was instantly covered with blood. Immediately afterwards, 12 immortal pillars shot straight into the sky. With the appearance of the 12 divine pillars, the evil energy between heaven and earth quickly gathered towards the magic circle. As the evil energy of heaven and earth condensed, a giant appeared in the magic circle. This giant is naked from the waist up, with a grass skirt surrounding its lower body, and its muscles are all tangled. The moment the giant appeared, the whole world changed color. Queen Mother of the West and God Haoshan looked at the scene that happened in front of them with shock. This is Pangu's true body. God Haoshan screamed. Queen Mother 11's expression changed drastically. She looked at me and murmured absently, You really have the body of Pangu. I stood in the magic circle and looked at Queen Mother of the West and God Haoshan. The formation I performed is called the Dushan Divine Demon Formation, also known as the 12 Dushan Divine Demon Formation. The power of the 12 ancestral witches activates the essence and blood of Pangu, gathers the evil energy of heaven and earth, and can condense the true body of Pangu, which is equivalent to the power of the physical body of the Saint of Heaven. During the great catastrophe of heaven and earth, the evil spirit is extremely strong, and this is the time when the evil formation of the gods in Dudu is the most powerful. The formation contains endless overlapping time and space, which is specifically designed to restrain space movement. The 12 divine pillars rising into the sky are eternal. No matter how you move the void, there is no way to move out of the range of the 12 divine pillars. This formation is jointly launched by the 12 ancestral witches. Only when all 12 ancestral witches gather together can the maximum power of the Dushan Shensha formation be unleashed. Without any of the ancestral wizards, it would be impossible to fully unleash the true power of the Dushan Shensha formation. The 12 ancestral witches are Dijiang, Jamang, Zurong, Xiao, Gonggong, Xianming, Hutu, Jiangliang, Zhujuyan, Tianwu, Wengzi, and Shebishi. They bear the blood of Pangu and are the prehistoric ones. The demon god of that period had a very high status. Considered to be the most physically powerful being in the world. The reason why I can cast the Dushan Shen evil formation is indeed because I have the body of Pangu and the blood of the 12 witch ancestors in my body, which is the blood of Pangu. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1903. I have always been curious about why my body can withstand the dragon energy of the entire Chinese dragon vein. As I retreated for 8 years, I also sorted out the memories in my mind. This sorting out didn't matter, I knew everything immediately. Although I am the reincarnation of Emperor Zaiwei, I have the body of Pangu, and the essence and blood of Pangu in my body is even comparable to that of the 12 ancestral witches. But that is only comparable, there is no way to compare with the 12 witch ancestors. This is also the reason why I can enter the sky coffin, and the sky coffin is perfectly integrated. After all, the entire world was created by Pangu. I looked at Queen Mother of the West and God Haoshan, and said, I originally wanted to use the Dushan Shensha formation for the last time, but now it's too late. Zhao Mian successfully restrained Sanking. His strength is really beyond my imagination. If I guessed correctly, Zhao Mian possesses the blood of Pangu like me. After all, he is my soul. If Zhao Mian can become one with me, I can exert 80% to 90% of the power of the Dushan Shensha formation. But now I can only perform 50% to 60%. If the Dushan Shensha formation wants to exert its full strength, the 12 witch ancestors must use it together. During the Lich War, there were only 10 ancestral witches who performed this formation because of the disparity between the ancestral witches. Because on the eve of the war, Zhu Rong died due to incompatibility with Gong Gong, and Dezhong was besieged by the immortals and died. However, 50% to 60% of the strength of the Dushan Divine Evil formation is enough to deal with Queen Mother of the West and God Haoshan. I took a deep breath and activated the Dushan Divine Evil formation. The magic circle was activated, and the world was instantly covered with bloody light. Pangu's true body slowly opened the palm of his right hand, and a giant axe slowly condensed in Pangu's true body's right hand. The god's axe appeared. Pangu held the god's axe in his hand and struck it hard at Queen Mother of the West and God Haoshan. God Haoshan and Queen Mother 11 looked shocked, and they quickly transformed into their true bodies to resist them. However, the power of Pangu's true body was beyond their imagination. When their souls came into contact with Pangu's divine axe, Queen Mother of the West and God Haoshan immediately vomited blood. When Sanking saw this, he quickly came to resist. I glanced at Zhao Mian. Zhao Mian understood this, and he quickly came to stand in front of me and stood at the center of the Dushan Shensha formation in my place. I took this opportunity to quickly pull away. Zhao Mian can indeed control the Dushan Shensha formation. I landed firmly on the tomb of the gods. 36 righteous gods are watching the battle on the ground. When they saw me coming down, their expressions changed slightly. I didn't talk nonsense or hesitate, and directly presented the list of gods. The list of gods is unfolding. The names on the list exude a dazzling golden light. Immediately afterwards, a powerful suction force sucked 365 righteous gods into the list of gods. 365 righteous gods have been injured by me, and now it is easy to suck them into the list of gods. I looked up at Zhao Mian in the magic circle and shouted, I'm counting on you here. Wait for me to come back. Zhao Mian responded, okay. I sat cross-legged on the ground, kneaded the formula with my hands, and muttered some words. An evil spirit spread from my body. The evil energy condensed into a coffin. I stood up and pushed open the coffin lid and jumped in. The inside of the coffin was like a huge black whirlpool. You can't see any light in it, and you can't identify the direction. That familiar feeling of dizziness came over again. This time I didn't faint. Instead, he landed firmly. I looked around and was horrified by what I saw. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 1904. The space I am in is very dreamy, with stars like rain falling on the silent night. Each star seems to be telling an ancient and mysterious story. Although the surrounding area is empty, it is very deep. Entering here, my nervous heart relaxed slightly. I looked around and a figure caught my eye. I was slightly startled when I saw this figure. Grandfather! I shouted to the figure. I saw the figure slowly turning back and walking towards me. I quickened my pace and rushed towards the figure. When I came to the figure, I was instantly excited. Grandpa? It's really you. Grandpa is still wearing the same shabby cloth as before, with a kind smile on his face. Xiaosu, long time no see, you have grown up. I watched my grandpa cry with joy. Yes. Grandpa? Xiaosu has grown up and is no longer the crying child. Grandpa stretched out his hand and rubbed my head with a doting look on his face. My dear grandson, I have suffered so much for you over the years. I shook my head and replied, it's not bitter, it's just that I'm lonely without your company, Grandpa, but fortunately, my grandson has found a home again. By the way, Grandpa, Tianxian gave birth to a daughter for me. Her name is Lu Ling. She is very cute and well behaved. Grandpa was startled, and then asked in surprise, really? Of course it's true. I looked at Grandpa, and my voice suddenly became choked. Grandpa, my grandson wants you to see Lu Ling, and he also wants his parents and uncle to see her. If you see that little girl, you will definitely like her very much. Grandpa rubbed my head lovingly and said, Xiaosu, I'm afraid Grandpa doesn't have this kind of eyesight anymore. This is the last time our grandfather and grandson will see each other. Grandpa has been waiting for you here for a long time. I held my grandpa's hand just like I held him when I was a child and didn't want him to leave. Grandpa said to me seriously, the reason why Grandpa is waiting for you here is to tell you the truth about the last layer of the sky coffin. I took a deep breath to calm the raging emotions in my heart. Grandpa, tell me, grandson, listen. Grandpa said slowly, the last layer of the sky coffin seals the 7 kills evil star. This 7 kills evil star is yourself. At the same time, it is also the way of heaven. I was slightly startled and asked in confusion, Grandpa, are you saying that 7 kills of evil stars is the way of heaven? Grandpa nodded, shook his head, and said, yes, and no, the so-called way of heaven is an irreversible law of nature. Everything in the world appears due to the operation of heaven. The same is true for the 7 kills. To put it simply, the 7 kills it's just part of the way of heaven. As for Grandpa saying that you are the way of heaven, this statement is also easy to understand. The way of heaven cannot be seen or touched, but it can affect all things. The evil thoughts, greed, and evil thoughts in the world, continue to increase, and the way of heaven will be affected and it will adjust itself. The way of heaven is ruthless but also sentimental. Under the self-regulation of heavenly Dao, he can no longer return to the original state. Therefore, heavenly Dao reincarnation gave birth to you. You are the embodiment of the way of heaven, and everything you experience and happen is created within the unpredictable laws. Grandpa was silent for a moment, then continued, the rules are not abnormal and unchanging. The rules will change and evolve. No one has destined everything you have experienced. In other words, you have been able to get to where you are now because you have discovered it yourself. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 1905. You are the only one who has escaped from heaven. You are the way of heaven, and the way of heaven is you. What Grandpa said was very profound. I couldn't understand it, but I also understood the meaning of his words. The law of heaven collapsed and adjusted itself. In the law of constant adjustment and change, I appeared and became the existence that transcended and escaped from the law of heaven. Why do you say I am the Dao of heaven? Because I am the product of the self-regulation of the Dao of heaven. The world has changed, and the original way of heaven can no longer maintain its normal rules. So, I appeared, inherited the way of heaven, and redefined the rules. Grandpa stretched out his rough big hand and touched my face and said, Xiaosu, the 9th level of the sky coffin is not dangerous. Because the way of heaven is sealed here. And you are the Dao of heaven. Letting the Dao of heaven return to your body will give you the power of the Dao of heaven. If there is no destruction, no establishment, from now on, you will be the way of heaven. Of course, Grandpa understands you and you have already arranged everything. Of course you have a way to restore the rules of heaven and earth. I nodded. Before entering the 9th floor of the sky coffin, I had been thinking about how dangerous the 9th floor was. But now it seems that I made things too complicated. Grandpa continued, one more thing is that the identities of the 12 saints all exist here. They are bound by the way of heaven and cannot get out. I was startled and asked, who is that outside? Grandpa replied, it's just evil thoughts. Saints can also have greed and evil thoughts, but saints are not gods. Only the way of heaven can restrain them. In the process of self-regulation of heaven, the way of heaven restrains the saints and expels their evil thoughts, and the way of heaven cannot be seen or touched. What really binds the saints is their hearts. I suddenly realized that no wonder Sanking looked so evil. When you take back the power of heaven, the saint's seal will be unlocked. But don't worry, they won't take action against you. I looked at Grandpa and asked, Grandpa, I have a question. If I become the way of heaven, then, can I do whatever I want? Can I also resurrect you? Grandpa couldn't help laughing when he heard this. Ha ha ha. Silly boy. Grandpa said before that the way of heaven is the law of the world. Even if you become the way of heaven, separation and death still cannot change it. However, you can intervene and complete some things within the rules. For example, you can let Grandpa reincarnate according to the laws of heaven. Of course, Grandpa's soul has dispersed, so he can't be reincarnated. What Grandpa said made me fully understand what the way of heaven is. The way of heaven is not power. It's a natural law of operation. This law will adjust itself according to changes. Whether it was the creation of the world by Pangu, the war between lich and witches in the prehistoric period, or the war to confer gods, these are the laws of the way of heaven that are born with changes. The way of heaven drives the development of the world and brings balance to the world. However, heaven cannot interfere with human intervention. You can only adjust the operation by yourself. But my appearance has jumped out of the way of heaven and become the way of heaven. I cannot directly customize the rules, but can only interfere. The way of heaven has collapsed. If the way of heaven is allowed to regulate itself, it will destroy everything. Simply put, it will restore to factory settings. When the time comes, what we have now will no longer exist, and a new world will be born. Of course, this world is not the current world. It may be other worlds, and people, gods, ghosts, etc. may also disappear. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanba. Chapter 1906. Of course, saints and gods under the law of heaven may not disappear. Because they have already mastered the rules. Xiao Su, everything will come to an end. Once you leave the coffin, you will have the ability to change everything. Grandpa looked at me with a look of reluctance. Let's go, the end is ahead. I looked at my grandpa and said, Grandpa, in fact, my grandson has always felt guilty for you. Because your grandson has not yet fulfilled his filial piety to you. As I said that, I knelt down to Grandpa, and then kowtowed to Grandpa 3 times. Grandpa, I'm sorry, forgive my grandson for being unfilial. Grandpa helped me up and said, Xiao Su, having you as my grandson is the happiest thing for me in my life. You have to live well. Your family is waiting for you outside. Grandpa's body began to dissipate, turning translucent in the blink of an eye. Grandpa, have a good trip. I choked and said to my grandfather. Grandpa smiled kindly at me, and his body turned into little stars and disappeared into the air. This is the last time my grandfather and I have met. From now on, I will never see my grandfather again. I knelt on the ground for a long time, adjusted my mentality and walked forward. I don't know how long I walked, but a dazzling golden light suddenly flashed in the darkness not far away. I quickened my pace and rushed towards the golden light. When I came to the golden body, I saw clearly that it was the body of the 12 saints. Ancestor Hung Jun all exists here. And there is a faint white light lingering around the 12 saints. These white lights shine like stars in the darkness. Grandpa said that the way of heaven cannot be seen or touched, so I don't know where the way of heaven is. I could only reach out and touch the white light. When my hand touches the white light suddenly exploded, and the originally dark sky and earth suddenly shone with dazzling stars. The stars twinkled, spun, and danced towards me. Finally, the light sank into me. At this moment, I felt that the power in my body was even stronger. It seems that I have become the new way of heaven. After that, what I want to do is start a new era. Let heaven, earth, humans, immortals, gods, demons, ghosts, be on the same starting line. It's like opening from chaos. Of course, after I enter the sky coffin, my body and soul will merge into this world. I am everywhere, because I am the way of heaven and I am the law. When the starlight dissipated, the 12 saints slowly opened their eyes. The 12 saints set their sights on me. Ancestor Hung Jun suddenly said, "Lu Su." I was slightly startled and asked, "Do you recognize me?" Ancestor Hung Jun nodded and said, "Of course I know you. I knew you would show up a long time ago. However, I didn't expect you to actually accomplish all of this." I looked at Patriarch Hung Jun and said, "Since you have calculated my appearance, you must also know what I want to do." Ancestor Hung Jun nodded and said, "I know, the way of heaven has collapsed, and our existence will only destroy the balance. Don't worry, we will fall into the mortal world and compete fairly with the people of heaven and earth." I was startled. I never expected that Patriarch Hung Jun was so knowledgeable. But being familiar with them saves me from attacking them. Ancestor Hung Jun continued, "Lu Su, as the new heavenly Dao, you naturally know that heavenly Dao cannot be changed and cannot be customized directly. You can only intervene." End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1907. I worked hard, and all I got was the right to interfere with the way of heaven. Although this matter seems to be a loss. But in fact, if you can interfere with the way of heaven, isn't it going against heaven? I can take action and make the world move in the direction I specify. After yin and yang are cut off and there is no God in the world, I can start arranging for the rise of the human race. I can't directly intervene in this matter, but I can plan it secretly. Because I am the way of heaven, and those who act rashly will cause unnecessary trouble. After everything is over, in the new world, the gods will surely descend to earth and compete in the central planes in the human world. And I need a helper, and the only candidate in my mind is Qin Yan's unborn grandson. However, it may be difficult for him to do it alone. But fortunately, I have mastered the way of heaven now, and the whole world will not return to chaos. I looked at Patriarch Hung Jun and said calmly, "I know everything you said, and I also know what you are thinking. You are afraid that I will interfere with your future path, and that you will not be able to become a saint even after working hard all your life in this world. Of course, you have no choice but to compromise with me. After all, who is willing to give up his identity as a saint?" I directly revealed what Ancestor Hung Jun was thinking. Seeing that I had made my words clear, Patriarch Hung Jun said directly without any twists and turns, "That's right, we voluntarily gave up our status as saints and became saints again for millions of people. Naturally, we don't want anyone to interfere. In our lives, after all, we have earned this position of saint through all the hard work. It is difficult to become a god and an immortal, and it is even harder to become a saint." I nodded and said, "Don't worry, I will let things develop according to the rules and will not interfere easily." The world today is full of holes. People don't look like humans, ghosts don't look like ghosts, and gods don't look like gods. But I will change everything. Ancestor Hung Jun nodded, and then said to me, however, you still need to do one thing before doing it again. What's the matter? Eradicate our evil thoughts completely, because as long as there are evil thoughts, we will not be able to descend to earth with peace of mind. I waved my hand and said, don't worry about this matter, I will handle it naturally. By the way, where are all your evil thoughts? Ancestor Hung Jun slowly uttered a sentence. The tomb of the gods. My expression changed drastically when I heard this. This is bad. Zhao Mian is now alone in the tomb of the gods, fighting against the evil thoughts of the 12 saints alone. Although he is strong, the evil thoughts of the 12 saints are not so easy to eliminate. I quickly cast a spell and left the 9th floor of the sky coffin. When I returned to the tomb of the gods, I was completely shocked by what I saw. I saw Zhao Mian holding the divine sword and falling to the ground covered in blood. The evil thoughts of the 12 saints are besieging Zhao Mian. Although he is injured, he is still resisting. What Haoshan God said is nonsense. Didn't he say that there are 6 saints in the tomb of the gods? And now, 12 saints have appeared. God Haoshan and Queen Mother 11 also have evil thoughts, but they retain some of their original rationality. As for the remaining 10 saints, their evil thoughts are separated from their true bodies, and they are the incarnations of evil spirits. I used the 9 eyes heaven realm and disappeared directly. When I reappeared, I was already in front of Zhao Mian. I held my right hand, and Jingxiao was held in my hand. I looked at these evil thoughts coldly and swung my sword towards these evil thoughts without any hesitation. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1908. Now, I have the power of heaven, and all the 9 evil stars have returned to the palace. His strength has already surpassed that of a saint. I don't know what realm is above a saint. Anyway, these evil thoughts cannot even be resisted by my sword. However, God Haoshan and Queen Mother of the West were not killed by me. Because they can't die yet. I helped Zhao Mian up, and Zhao Mian looked at me with a sad face and said, I said, do you dare to come a little later? If you come a little later, I will die. I smiled awkwardly and said, sorry, I didn't expect it to be like this. It has to be said that Zhao Mian is still very strong and can survive the siege of the 12 saints. Solve it? Zhao Mian asked. I nodded and said, solved. Zhao Mian's frowning brows finally relaxed, and then he fainted after looking at his eyes. When I appeared at the tomb of the gods, the 12 saints also appeared. Seeing that the time was right, I took out the list of gods and unfolded it. Then 365 righteous gods were released. 36 righteous gods stood in front of me and looked at me quietly. As for the 12 righteous gods, they are floating in the air. I looked at the gods in front of me and slowly said, I won this battle. I originally wanted to drive you all away, but there cannot be a world without God. I will give you a chance to send half of my soul into reincarnation, and then experience calamity in the human world. If you can still ascend to become gods in the human world, then you will still be the gods of the entire world. As for the evil thoughts in your hearts, I will get rid of them. My actions are to achieve a state of balance among the 3 forces of heaven, earth, and people. I waved my hand casually, and the vortex of reincarnation appeared beside me. If you are willing, you can send your normal soul into it. If you are not willing, I can only kill you all. After saying this, I didn't say anything else. The 365 righteous gods were shocked and decided to take out half of their souls, and send them into reincarnation. The 12 saints are no exception. There are many gods in this world. In addition to these 365 righteous gods and 12 saints, there are many more. But they are not in the tomb of the gods. However, I will take the time to find them one by one, and then send them to reincarnation. After settling this matter, I looked at the gods and said, I will cut off the passage between the divine world and the human world. From now on, gods cannot come down to earth and cannot interfere in human affairs, but you can still enjoy the offerings of human beings. However, if your reincarnation fails to become a god, these offerings will have no effect on you. After that, I left with Zhao Mian on my back. This matter is considered over. I didn't go far when Zhao Mian woke up. Zhao Mian said very weakly, it's finally over. Yes. It's finally over. Cut off the passage between the divine world and the human world, and we can go back. The gloom and frown on Zhao Mian's face had disappeared, replaced by an expression of relief. Do you know where the passage is? Are you just walking around? I smiled and said, I don't know, just point it out to me. Zhao Mian pointed in a direction and said, over there. I walked in the direction of Zhao Mian. I don't know how long I walked, but a cliff suddenly appeared in the world in front of me. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 1909. The cliff stretches for thousands of miles, with no end in sight. I came to the cliff and looked down the cliff. Under the cliff is the human world. Moreover, there are ladders leading to the human world. If you want to cut off these ladders, the connection between the human world and the divine world will be severed. Let's do it, this is the last thing. Zhao Mian said to me. I nodded and stood on the edge of the cliff holding Jingxiao in my hand. I took a deep breath and gathered all my strength into the sky. My efforts have finally yielded results. I survived, not died. This is what everyone expected. However, after this, I will go to the sky coffin. I would replace the one I love. Without any hesitation, I raised my sword and swung my sword towards the cliff. The sword energy spreads across hundreds of thousands of miles. Directly cut off the ladders between the divine world and the human world. After this sword, there will be no gods in the world. It's time for my story to end. I just cut off the heavenly path, and Zhao Mian screamed from the side, oh no! We are in the god realm now, how can we get down? As mentioned before, the tomb of the gods is just a small part of this desolate world. But now I know that the place beyond the tombs of the gods is the world of gods. The reason why the god realm became desolate has a lot to do with the gods. I glanced at Zhao Mian, rolled my eyes and said, please, I am the Dao of heaven now, what's the difficulty in going down? I made the formula with both hands and muttered words in my mouth, and a magic circle appeared in front of me. I walked into the magic circle, looked at Zhao Mian, and said, let's go. Zhao Mian nodded. I moved the magic circle, golden light enveloped Zhao Mian and me, and then we disappeared from the spot. By the time we appeared again, Zhao Mian and I had already returned to the human world. Zhao Mian stretched on the side and said, oh! It's finally over. I looked at Zhao Mian and said, although it's over, there are some things that we still need to deal with. Zhao Mian was startled and asked, what's going on? I replied, I want to return the dragon energy of the 3 major dragon veins, and also find the gods except the tombs of the gods. After completing these things, I will enter the sky coffin. Zhao Mian nodded and said, I was negligent. This place is very close to Jiyuntang. Do you want to go back and have a look? I shook my head and replied, I won't go. I'm afraid I won't be able to leave after I go back. Zhao Mian said nothing more. Afterwards, Zhao Mian and I began to look for the gods outside the tombs of the gods. This process really lasted for a year with Zhao Mian. After confirming that there are no gods or immortals in the world, I went to Kunlun. I returned the borrowed dragon energy and heaven and earth energy to this world. Then Lu Hangxuan's physical body was reunited. However, it may take some time for Lu Hangxuan's physical body to be condensed and formed. I placed Lu Hangxuan's inner elixir in Yaokai. After finishing this matter, I returned to Tianfu City to meet my third uncle. When my third uncle saw that I was still alive, he burst into tears. "Uncle Third, I have to leave," I said to my third uncle. The third uncle's expression condensed and he asked, "Do I have to go?" I nodded and replied, "I have to go, but third uncle, you won't be alone after I leave. Go to Jiyuntang often to see Lu Ling when you have time." "Lu Ling? Who is Lu Ling?" I replied, "My daughter." The third uncle was startled and exclaimed, "Xiao Su. You have a child." End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbo. Chapter 1910. I smiled and said, "Yes." Third uncle suddenly stood up, grabbed my hand, and said, "Xiao Su, third uncle can't bear to leave you." I patted my third uncle on the shoulder and said, "Third uncle, only by giving up can you gain something. Life and death are just the laws of nature. No one can change it." The third uncle cried hard and punched me hard, saying, "You bastard! You taught me a lesson." I waved my hand towards third uncle and said, "Third uncle, I'm leaving." After that, I turned around and left. I didn't look back because I knew my third uncle was crying. I don't want to see him cry, and of course, I don't want him to see me cry either. Before going to Tian Coffin, I went to Jiyuntang. However, I did not go in, but looked quietly from a distance. After standing for a long time, the door of Jiyuntang suddenly opened. Miao Fengluan wore a red dress and led Lu Ling out. I haven't seen Lu Ling for a year. The little girl has grown up a lot and learned to walk, although she is wobbly when she walks. She is very cute. I looked at Lu Ling quietly, and unknowingly, tears fell from the corners of my eyes. "Lu Ling, I'm sorry that Dad can't be with you anymore, but it won't be long before your mom comes back." I reluctantly watched Miao Fengluan lead Lu Ling away. I didn't turn around until Lu Ling disappeared from my sight. After leaving Jiyuntang, Zhao Mian found me. "Let's go," Zhao Mian said quietly to me. "Good." Zhao Mian and I came to the world where the Sky Coffin was. The place is still full of stars, dreamlike and incredibly beautiful. I looked at Zhao Mian and asked, "Zhao Mian, after I leave, Tianqian and the others will be handed over to you. We have arranged everything for this year. You will secretly protect us and make everything we have arranged happen step by step. I believe it won't be long before the reincarnations of the gods will appear in this world. Zhao Mian and I have not been idle this year. In the battle at the Tomb of the Gods, I gained a fair starting point. The three forces of heaven, earth, and man are already on the same level. Moreover, it was precisely because that battle was won that the world did not turn into chaos." Zhao Mian hummed and said, "Don't worry, there won't be any problems with me here." I reached out and patted Zhao Mian on the shoulder and said, "You have been living in my shadow your whole life. I wonder if you will see yourself clearly in the end." Zhao Mian looked up at the stars in the sky, sighed faintly, and said, "See clearly, my name is Zhao Mian. I am not your shadow, let alone your dependence. I have my own life." Seeing Zhao Mian say this, my hanging heart finally dropped. "Okay, brother, it's time for me to hit the road. After I leave, you can live the life you want to live, and don't live as tiredly as before." Zhao Mian looked at me with complicated eyes, and then nodded. I came to the Sky Coffin and pushed the coffin away. Su Tianqian lay quietly in the Sky Coffin. She was as unchanged as the starry sky. I looked at Su Tianqian for a long time and said quietly, "Tianqian, I'm here. You must have been waiting for me for a long time. I'm sorry for letting you stay in this dark and cold coffin for so long." Next, let me take your place. I reached out my hand and gently touched Su Tianxuan's cheek, then leaned down and kissed Su Tianxuan's lips gently. End of chapter.